With me is Danny Lendich, and Danny is a bit of a legend around Auckland. He's been in business since he was about 12, 13, and he's been pretty much an Auckland household name in the industry of trucking and diggering and bulldozing and all that sort of thing. And welcome to our little show, Danny. Lovely to meet you. And when did you start, or what inspired you to get into what you do?
Well, my mum and dad were orchardists and winemakers in Moira Road in Massey.
Oh, yes.
And I used to drive the farm tractor on the farm.
What, 10 or 11, that sort of age?
Yeah, and then I took my dad in to buy a little bulldozer, and we bought a bulldozer which was in from Southhead, Helensville, off a guy, Johnny Harmer.
Oh.
It was an International TD6. It was a small machine in those days.
Yeah.
And then I just started working around the place, and I was working 7 days a week.
So this is all work that you've arranged yourself, so you've gone and talked to him and
just work that we just got, and some of the jobs I done in the early days, they're still there. I can go and see them.
Wow.
They're out at Huia, Cornwallis, out that way.
Wow.
And then from then on, just progressed on and had a little Fordson van, and then I bought a Thames Straighter truck and sold that, and bought a Comma Transporter and sold that, and then I switched into Kenworth.
So how did you get your little bulldozer around?
Well, in those days, I used a guy, Gordon Lyes, he's not around anymore. We just put some planks up the back of a Comma truck and backed it up there and fell off a few times and that sort of thing.
Yes.
But
do you remember if the Comma had an Eaton diff?
2-speed Eaton diff.
Yeah.
3-cylinder Comma.
Yeah. Because I thought those Eaton diffs were quite a knack to, if you missed it, was clunk if you...
That's right. That's right.
If you missed the gear change. Yeah. And so the Kenworth, tell me, 1972 was an interesting year for Kenworth, because suddenly the logging industry has found that these great big trucks are available, and so they've gone from the R190s, the old International R190s, into Kenworth.
Yeah.
And
well, what happened is I saw Mike Lambert.
Yes.
He was one of the first with Kenworth in New Zealand. He was logging, and I was keen to buy one, and then I went to see who the agent was, and in those days it was Delhoff and King.
Oh, yes.
So I went there and I bought my first Kenworth, and which we've still got, and I upgraded it since then. So
tell me about the colour scheme, your livery.
My wife. was her idea. I think it was the orange. I think it was a Ford colour.
Oh, yes.
And from then on, she'd done all the design work and everything.
Sure, because your trucks, when you're going and driving around, your trucks are very, very standoutish. I mean, great big,
so
enormous.
Much work from it.
Yeah.
It's a good advertising.
Absolutely. Yeah. The Lendich is just about as big as the truck.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, did you drive the Kenworth yourself when you in 1972?
I did. Only about 18 months, 2 years ago. We were short, and then I just jumped in and drove it. I can drive the truck with a digger.
Sure. And you drive the digger as well. Mind you, you've done all that. It's all in the blood, as it were. Yeah.
I got my grandson. He's driving a digger now.
Yes. My grandson's driving a digger as well.
He's only, what was he when he started? I think about 12 or 13. Yeah.
Enjoys it?
Yeah, he does, yeah.
That's the main thing. If you've got a job and you're thoroughly enjoying it, well, it's not really work.
He does, yeah.
Yeah, that's excellent. So when your second Kenworth came along, when was that?
74.
74, so you had the one for 2 years. And were they, what engines did they have in them?
They had Cummins.
Oh, okay. Because I know that Mike Lambert had a V12 that he bought.
Yeah, that's right. He had a GM V12. Yeah.
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 And we did a story on, you might remember the story we did, they called that truck the Concorde. One of the digger drivers sort of didn't believe how much time it took to get from the skids to Mount Maunganui and back again. He said, God, you're as fast as the Concorde. And that name stuck with that truck ever since.
Yeah.
It's just interesting. Big thing. And number 3?
Number 3 is a transporter. It's come out of Seattle in America. It had a Cummins 450 horsepower, so K19. So we took that out and we put a 650 horsepower K19. It had 2 gear levers and 2-speed back end.
Really?
So then what we done is we took the floor out of the Kenworth and we air shifted the auxiliary gearbox, so it's got 1 stick and 4 on the button, and it's got 2-speed differential. It's got 40 gears in total with high-low range.
Sure. So we'll crawl along.
We still got it, still operating now. It's our transporter, shifts all the machines.
How slow does it go? Hardly
Really
move.
slow. It's 130 to 1 total reduction, which is really slow.
Wow.
You can put it there and jump out of it and it'll just go along quietly. Steer itself.
Well, that's a lot of gears, and you've got to remember what gear you're in, I guess, half the time. Oh, shit, what gear am I in? Where do I go next?
I had a guy, Don Hayward, work for me for 30 odd years, and he just passed away. And he drove it, and he drove it when I first bought it with the twin sticks.
And that's quite a knack.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
We were in America looking at old trucks, and we come across a Mack with triple sticks, had 3 sticks. And yeah, that was interesting.
Now they've automatic or semi-automatic. The last Kenworth we've got in the shed there, it's fully automatic. It's got an Allison, no clutch, and no gearbox. It's an Allison automatic, and you just put it in drive and it just changes itself like your car. Yeah.
We were looking at Pacific logging trucks in Canada about a month ago. Yeah. And they had Allison automatic gearboxes.
Yeah, that's right.
And there was, I think it was 6 forward gears. That was it. But you just moved, no clutch or anything. You just moved it into whatever gear you wanted.
I don't think Pacific's around anymore.
No, they don't make them anymore. But they keep these logging trucks refurbished or reconditioned.
Well, I think Mike Lambert had Pacific, didn't he?
No, he had Kenworth.
Yeah.
I don't think he had a Pacific, no.
Kainga Logging Company.
They had Pacifics, yes. And they came in 1954 to the Kaingaroa Logging Company, And so a Pacific didn't cross your mind at all?
No.
For what you do?
No.
So what's your mainstay work? It's shifting rocks and dirt and earth moving,
What happened, we had a lot of problem years ago. You had to be licensed to shift machinery for other people. So we bought out, you would remember, Baldy Morgan, New Zealand Road Makers. We bought a license off him, and we actually transferred our truck, my number 1 truck, into New Zealand Road Makers, and we set up out at East Tamaki where they were. And we had a guy that we were just shifting machines all around the place. And then the transport licensing tried to take the license off us because they were saying that our road makers hadn't worked for a while. And you had to have a heavy haulage license to operate throughout New Zealand. So all the heavy haulage contractors, Green and McCarhill and Trevor Deutsch and many others were opposing us having the license, road makers. So all that's gone, of course. So when we ended up going to a court case over it, in the meantime we were allowed to work, so we just kept working and we built up all the work and went to court and gave the court my wife did, she stood up and says, here's all the work that we've done. And the court had no option but to grant us a New Zealand-wide licence. And all that's finished now.
Yeah. There's a photograph on the wall there with two of your trucks with the... That there is number 1 and number 2. And what's on the back?
Might even have New Zealand road makers on. No, it isn't. No. Yeah. The guy that's on the side of it just died recently.
Oh, okay. What year was that roughly? In the 80s?
That's about 74.
Oh, okay.
But that's at 72 Kenworth.
Yes.
See, it's got the narrow grille.
Yes.
We put the wide grille on and upgraded the motor, and it's probably the best truck in the fleet. It's got a proper engine brake, a Jake brake, which you can only use in certain places, but it's very efficient. The Caterpillar's got a brake saver. It's an oil. It's a retarder. It's not that efficient.
No. That's a pretty impressive photograph.
Yeah, we were shifting those tanks. I'm not sure exactly where they were from, but...
Oh, okay, yeah. No, she's pretty impressive. I think they're impressive anyway. What do you think? Look at this.
Way back when Robert Muldoon was the Prime Minister, I picked him up from his house in my Kenworth and took him to the Easter show. But his problem, he was always drunk.
He's looking at him here, there's he's probably looking down and thinking, shit, that's a long way to fall.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. Christmas isn't all that far away, and so if you're looking for a present for the truck driver or somebody interested in transport in your life, then my Talking Trucks book might be just the thing. So if you'd like a copy, just email me, billhohepper@extra.co.nz, and I'll take your details and I'll get a copy in the post to you. Now this book covers trucks basically heading back from about 1972 to the time they started making vehicles. So a good historical book, and tells you all about the New Zealand transport industry up until about 1972. So for a Christmas present, perfect. Email me, billhohepper@extra.co.nz. Would you like to come and catch a pig with me tomorrow?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Excellent. Danny, if I got a job with you tomorrow, and you say, well, there's your truck bill, it's the Kenworth, what would you tell me that you wanted me to do, or look after the truck wise?
Oh, before I give you a job, I'd try you out and see whether you can do it. I've got people coming here, so I could drive a Kenworth. So I said, oh, okay. And all the Kenworths have got master switch on. And when we stop at the end of the day, we turn master switch off. I had guys coming in, oh yeah, I've driven them, I've done this and done that. Okay, go over there and start the truck and back it round the corner. They come in, they couldn't start it. I said, oh, something was wrong. I went over there, just opened the door, put the master switch on and started. I said, what's wrong with that? And I says, back it round there. And they find it pretty hard to back our trucks because the trailers are very slow reacting.
Oh, okay.
Because of where the centre point of the trailer versus the back wheels on the truck. The centre point of the kingpin is only about 3 inches further forward. If you put it any further forward, it overloads the front axle. But then it's very slow reacting when you're back.
Yeah, right.
So there's a lot of engineering that people don't understand.
And so when you Oh, first of all, that tub shape,
Yeah.
is that your design, or you picked that up?
No,
from
what
some-
happened, I was racing in America, in Denver, Colorado, and there was a company called Hirsch Trucking. So I got on to Scotty Hirsch, who I know, and he had those, and then I got on to, there was a dealer just started here in Palmerston North. So I got on to them, and they were Demet Fruhoff, and they built me. The first ones I had were 2-axle trailers.
So when you tip that, has it got a ram, or does the whole trailer, wheels and all, go up?
No, it's got a ram. We have got a trailer out the back there that stands up. It doesn't have a chassis. It stands up on the back axle.
Yes.
Transport in General built that for me. The others have all, now we only own 3-axle Fruhoff trailers. The very latest ones, if you're over 3 degrees on an angle, the hoist won't go up.
So that's a safety feature?
Safety feature, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
also believe that in America now they've got, between the wheels on the back, they've got like rams, and push some legs out and go down on the ground to stabilise the trailer.
Yeah, when you're doing that.
Because they are very dangerous, tipping. Anybody can drive them, but tipping and backing them is another story.
Yeah, I drove a comma Arctic when McConnell Dow were doing Paul Street, extension to the bridge. They had 4 commas Arctics they'd bought, and I was lucky enough to get a job driving one of those. But I'd say when that, way the hell up in the air when it's right up, but it's just that sway factor you had to be aware of when you. So tell me, when you climb into one of your Kenworths, there's so many gauges. And would I get by without taking any notice of any of them?
Well, if you drive American trucks, whether it be Kenworth or not, they've all got gauges, and you just got to keep an eye on them. But if you service your trucks regularly, you check all that they're all working. They've got sensor units for temperature, and the Jake brake has got a pyrometer for the heat in the manifold and that sort of thing, and
Wow.
temperature comes up. So you just got to keep that. But we had to fit on our big Kenworth, we had to fit coolers on the gearboxes.
And there's a gauge for that as well.
There's a temperature gauge for the gearbox just to keep them cool.
Yeah,
But we check all that when we service.
sure. And the service is what, every?
10,000 kilometres,
Oh, really?
yeah. Or 250 hours.
Yeah, right. Whichever comes first.
We mainly work on hours, engine hours. A lot of the time in New Zealand here, you do a lot of idling time because the roads, the traffic. You get in the traffic and you stop and the truck's idling and it's not doing the mileage. So we've got an engine hour meter, and when we do the service, we write the hour meter hours on the filters, oil filters, fuel filters.
Wow.
We do everything here. Engine rebuilds, we do everything.
Right. So I'm sitting in the driver's seat here. There's a pile of gauges that side. There's a pile of gauges that side. So the temperature's ones, I suppose, is the one you sort of have a glance at every now and again.
Yeah.
Oil pressure, I suppose.
Yeah.
But there's lots of gauges that tell you all sorts of things that you probably don't really want to know.
Yeah, well, you've got to keep an eye on everything.
Yeah, absolutely you do. Yeah.
It's not how much work you do out on the roads and that, on the job sites, it's how much it costs you to do it. And that's why got good mechanics, and I look after the workshop with them, and we service everything regular and we record it.
Sure.
We have a GPS system where we know where our trucks are when they'll be in, and I believe that they can tell the speed that they're doing and
how fast they went round a corner, and So we did a thing with Toll New Zealand. They were telling us exactly that. They've got every truck that's in their fleet is, it's got this GPS monitoring system in them, and they can tell how fast they went around this corner, how fast on the straight, and then they get the driver in after he gets back. You went round this too fast. You went this, and just give him a dressing down on all the things he did wrong.
Yeah.
Back in the day, of course, nobody knew. You just drove the truck.
I'll tell you what I did do when I was in America. You've got to tie the loads down on the transporter. And in the old days, they had one that you pull the lever down and you had to put a big piece of pipe on it, pull it down,
get it down,
and it'll snap the chain over. Wow. I still see guys that got them, but when I was in America, I saw the ratchet ones. I've got all ratchet. Now I see everybody in the country's using the ratchet one.
Yeah.
And when I first got them, I think they were around 600 or 700 in the 70s, 600 or 700 pound. Anyhow, you can buy them now for $90.
Yeah.
But it's all safety thing.
Yeah, it's just rack.
Yeah, there's a lot of things, chains rubbing on the chassis, and I changed all that on my low loader trailers.
Wow.
I put a certified shackle on the side and got an engineer to design the thing where it shackle bolts on, fixes to, and you lift it up, and it's above the side rail. And the chain goes straight onto that, and then you chain your load down, put the ratchet, and the chain's not rubbing on anything.
Wow. So with your dump trucks, do you have to have a cover over the top?
Yes, yes, that's going to be compulsory within 3 years everywhere. The bulk guys, most of them have got them now. Unfortunately for us, we're cutting dirt and metal. We're loading with the diggers, and it's very difficult to get a cover that doesn't get damaged.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But I'm looking at electric covers, so they're going to have to change the top of the trailer, and where the driver they won't let you out of the truck at some of these quarries now. You've got to stay in the truck. And it's just a little remote that you put out the window and you go like that and the cover rolls over. That's going to be our biggest cost now.
Do you think people who make those rules about you're not allowed out of the truck consider that the driver has to actually do?
Well,
while he's on the job before he can leave?
What's happened is Stevenson's owned the quarry at Drury there.
Yeah.
And they sold it to Fulton Hogan. They still run it under Stevenson's, and the people that are making the rules at Fulton Hogan can't drive a digger nor a truck, but they know all about it. We've got a case here where they're doing a lot of maintenance on the roads. We have a giveaway sign just down the road here, and the wind came and it blew it over. So they had 2 trucks and 1 truck in the middle and about 6 people in a safety truck. They put it back up, the wind came again, turned the giveaway sign around, they came back again. I don't know what it cost the government.
We had a truck come out to where we live. There were 3 trucks. There was one in front, one behind, and the truck that's actually doing the job.
Yeah, that's right. That's what they'd had here.
Be 100 cones from beginning to end. And then one guy sort of got in his cherry picker, went up, and he changed the light bulb. That's all he did, just change the light bulb.
Go up to Kumu and have a look at all the cones And how many people of Fulton Hogan are standing around with all the high-vis, the hard hats, the boots, the long pants, and everything, and just see what that's actually costing. I don't mind, you've got to have health and safety, but those guys have gone overboard and they're costing the country a fortune.
Yeah, you have to say.
I believe it's over $2 a day per cone.
Back when I was 8, I used to climb into an old Austin Lodestar with my grandfather, and he was a local carrier. So in the morning he went and collected all the cream cans, and in the afternoon he'd go and shift hay or cows or some other general carrying type work. But when I was sitting in there and helping with this, helping with that, I thought to myself, all I want to be is a truck driver. Oh, this is so varied, and you're on the road, you're meeting people, you're your own boss, more or less. And so as I got my license, so I drove the first truck. It was for Bob Martin. Bob Martin used to have Reliance Transport, top of Blockhouse Bay Road, there back in the day. And he did all sorts of things, mainly down the wharf. What I was saying is, I was inspired by just spending 2 or 3 years in the school holidays in a truck. But you can't do that now. You can't. You can't put a kid anywhere near them.
No. I had one of my guys, not very long ago. His wife went to work, and there was no one. It was school holidays. Nobody to look after the kids. And he asked me whether he can take a kid to the work in the truck, and I said no. So he stayed home, and from what I believe, he got more money from the government to stay home and look after the kid than what he did to come to drive our truck.
Just to change the subject a bit, Danny, you've come up with racing cars, midgets.
Yeah.
And we knew a Reese Vicuri was a very good friend of ours.
He was a promoter.
Yeah. And what did you enjoy about, even though you didn't drive them yourself, what did you enjoy about racing the midgets?
Oh, well, that's another story. With the midget racing, there's a lot of engineering. I'm not a theory man, I'm a practical person. And I put my own cars together. I had Sleepy Trip from America drive my cars. And I got a phone call from him, and I said, Sleepy, how'd you go? And he said, no good. My car wouldn't turn, and there was this guy, Keith Kearns was his engineer. So I got an aeroplane and I flew up there, and he lived in Costa Mesa, and it was through him we got our Wendy's franchise.
Oh, wow.
So I said, well, Sleepy, how the hell can you turn it? I said, you can't even push it. So in half an hour I changed the wheel positioning. We pushed it and it came out of his garage, down the road, driveway and onto the road, and when it turned left on its own. Because it was all an engineering factor, and it still is.
Well, listen, Danny, I have to congratulate you on your passion for what you do, what you've done, getting it all going, keeping it going, and I just admire you. I think you're just bloody shit on.
Big thing is keeping it going.
Yeah. Anyway.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
So there you go, folks. Danny Lendich, a legend.